What's up, guys? Haley and Jackson. We just wanted to make a video for you guys that have been asking us questions since Banks has been born, just about the whole process and just how we've, I guess how we. I mean, he's 4 months old now, which is crazy to think about. But we're just going to talk about his story and just how it affected us, Lord, and wait, what? And just how the Lord answered prayers of a lot of people. And I know you guys are a lot of people are really eager to hear about his story, and if you haven't heard anything about it, but I hope you guys kind of get something out of this. And
Just kind of wanted to make a video too because you go through things for a purpose and you can't really give those things a bigger purpose if you don't talk about them. Like God's still going to work, but I feel like we're supposed to talk about things that we went through so that it can impact other people's lives. And I feel like Bank's story really can impact other people's lives. And something else too that I noticed is going through this struggle, I realized after we brought Banks home and everything and just all the baggage that came afterwards, like how little people that you can easily find out there and relate to that have gone through any kind of similar experience. And so I thought it was important to put what we went through out there, so that maybe other people can feel a little less alone, because it got very lonely feeling at a certain point. And I was like, man, if there was just anything, even the smallest thing that we could do to help somebody else through that, like that would be awesome. And so that's just really what we want to do. So we went in the day after Christmas at about 5 o'clock, went into the hospital, and started the induction process. And he was going to come on the 27th. That was the plan. It was like 39 weeks and 2 days or something like that when he was induced. And yeah, went in and they started me on a cervical ripening that whole night, which was, I mean, unpleasant, but fine. And then the next day they start me on Pitocin to actually get contractions starting. And so, if you don't know what labor contractions are supposed to be like, not pleasant, let me just tell you that. But they're supposed to be rhythmic, not sporadic or anything, but it's supposed to be like a contract for 90 seconds and then a break for like 90 seconds maybe. I don't know. If you can't tell, like, my body didn't do this, which is why I don't perfectly know what that is, but it's supposed to kind of follow that pattern, and then they're supposed to get like more intense and closer together. Yeah. Well, anyway, my body wasn't doing that. They took me off Pitocin like shortly after I started it because I was just constantly contracting. Like I would contract, and then like a small break, and then contract. And I kind of noticed it was very unpleasant. I had 2 epidurals in that process. That was very fun. I knew that there was no break because after that first epidural, I was still on my side moaning in pain, and I don't remember anything that happened in the room around that time. But got the second epidural, didn't feel anymore, so I kind of thought everything had evened out a little bit. But also, I never had a baby before, never been in labor before, so I didn't really know that what my body was doing was not the correct thing, until they came in, and the nurse was like, you see this right here? Like, we're not really loving that. So we stopped the Pitocin. Your body's not giving baby a break. And so, yeah, that's when we kind of got some red flags. My body didn't take any breaks contracting, and Bank's heart rate was decelling. It was basically just dropping. He was not handling it very well. It was very stressful on him, and he was not having a very good time. And so my doctor came in later that evening after I'd been laboring all day and not really having much progress, and she said, okay, I'm not liking how he's looking. We're going to place an internal monitor and find out exactly how strong your contractions are, exactly the timing of them, and exactly his readings. And that'll be more accurate than just the monitors that we put, on the outside of your belly with a band, because every time you move with those, like, baby can move too. And so his heart rate's not in the same spot, or your fundus or whatever. I don't know. That was a fun word that I learned while we were there, but wherever they monitor the contractions, like, it kind of shifts. And so it's not always the most accurate reading. And so we're going to place that. and just see how he does. And so they place that, and then she comes back maybe 5 minutes later. It hasn't been long at all. And she comes back in and she says, he's not tolerating it well at all. And so really our only option at this point, he kind of needs to come out. Like we need to do a C-section. And I was like, what are our options? Do we have to do that right now? Can we wait, ride it out and see if it gets better? And she's like, it's not going to get better. It's just going to continue on this way. And that's not going to be good for him. So we really need to go back and do a C-section. And I wasn't thinking she meant like immediately. I don't know what I was thinking she meant really, but I mean, she said that we need to do a C-section, and then they were prepping me, and we were going.
So I was just sitting there, and she comes in and says that, and I'm just kind of like, oh, C-section. Haley didn't want that to happen. I didn't really know. I'm not the one going through the labor process, like in the physical part, so it wasn't really affecting me. But like in that sense, I knew how much she didn't want to. She wanted to have a natural birth and everything, in that sense. But I just knew that Haley looked scared in that moment. I just kind of broke down because I was like, man, something isn't right. And I just hope Banks is okay. Everyone done a prayer. I was like, before all this had started, that I wanted Banks to just be happy and healthy and come out screaming and everything. And so that process, her coming and saying we're having a C-section just kind of floored me, I guess. So she said they immediately started prepping her, and so they brought her bed in, got her on that, and they took her out. And they said I had to just go sit out in the middle of it took me out these hallways and stuff throughout the hospital, get to this room, and it's just this, I guess, the operation room, and I'm sitting outside in this chair, and they say, here, put these clothes on, put these on your shoes on your head and stuff, and I'm like, okay. And everybody just disappears, and I'm just kind of like, okay, well, now what do I do? So I'm just sitting there by myself, and a few thoughts came to my mind. I just felt helpless, that a few things could happen. Banks could not make it. Haley could not make it, or neither one of them. And like my thoughts were, so where does that leave me? How do we recover from this? And that's when I felt helpless. Like, there was nothing that I could do and that I could ever do to fix this situation. Right? Like, the Lord is in control of this whole thing. Like, this is something way bigger than me, way bigger than any of us, actually. That, God is making this out to be a story that he can use, because everything happens for a reason. I believe that.
Like you said, like I didn't want a C-section. I've never had a surgery, and so the thought of any kind of major surgery always made me really nervous. And to have not ever had any kind of operation, and then you're going into your first one, and you're going to be awake, and that was kind of daunting. But the only thing I was just hanging on to the whole time, like, all right, you just got to get through this. You can do it. It's fine, because at the end, like, you're going to see this baby boy that you've been waiting 9 months and just like over the moon excited about meeting. And so just hang on to that. You're numb and you can't feel anything, but like you can feel movement and tugging. And so with each incision they made, I just felt like my body being pulled, and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't like this. And so I just was trying to hang on and be brave. And finally they get to where Banks is, and I hear the doctor, we had suspicions that he was going to be a big boy. He goes, oh my gosh, Haley, I think he's going to be as big as we thought he was going to be. And so I know that she sees him, and I'm excited, and still nervous, but excited. At 6:28 p.m. on December 27th, she lifts this big old brown-headed boy over the curtain. Yeah, 9 pound, 22 inches. Yep. Over the curtain. And what I should be able to say was the best moment of my life, I can't, because I knew something was wrong, and I was terrified, because they're supposed to come out screaming and crying, and maybe like even moving, but he was doing none of those things. And I didn't know until about a month ago when I saw in your journal that you'd written that prayer, and it specifically references just pray that he comes out screaming. And he didn't. He came out silent. And that's something that's been really hard for me to deal with. But I know there was a purpose in that. But yeah, so just scared because he wasn't doing anything. He was just not making any noise. And I don't know if they all the time if they lay baby by mom after they take him out so that mom can meet him and everything and see him and touch him because you can't do anything. And I was really hoping for that because 9 months, the moment I was looking forward to was just the moment that he comes out and I get to hold him on my chest and he's here and everything just feels complete. And so I just was really ready for that to happen. And that was another thing that kind of gave me a sign that something was wrong. And so, yeah, they didn't do that. They just took him straight to a table.
He looked like this. I don't know if it was just because if he wasn't screaming or breathing or what, but he looked kind of not. It looked kind of purplish to me. So I just thought something might have been wrong, and so they took him over to the table next to us and put him on a warmer bed and everything, and just started to help him out. He just needed some help, and I got to go over there with him and hold his hand and talk to him and everything. Then it sucks. Um, it was really hard because I knew the hell he wanted to hold him and everything right when that happened, and it didn't happen that way. But so it was just kind of a like, oh, is he like? I just these questions like, is he gonna be okay or what's going on? Like all this stuff, and yeah, it's kind of it was just a hard moment.
So I had a suspicion that he wasn't okay, but I just kept asking you because I kept not hearing him cry as they took him away. And Jackson's over there with him, and I can only really kind of look. Yeah, so I kept asking you, is he okay? Is he okay? And Jackson's like, yeah, no, he's fine. He's fine. And were you just trying to be reassuring? Or
I
did
mean,
you not
I didn't
really
know
know?
anything. I
Yeah.
mean, but I also was trying to be reassuring.
Yeah, he wasn't breathing at all when he came out. And there's the APGAR score. His APGAR score when he was delivered at 1 minute was 1, which essentially just means like he had a little bit of a heartbeat. And so that was all out of a 10. Like he was a 1. But yeah, so they bagged him or intubated him. The NICU doctor, I guess, came in and says, "Ma'am, I want you to know, like, your baby needs a little bit of help breathing. There was some meconium in your amniotic fluid when they broke your water, and had some fluid in his lungs. And so we just are going to go and help him out, but he's in good hands. We're going to take care of him." And I said, okay. And so they took him, and it was just me and Jackson in the room now as the doctors continued to put me back together. And they sew me up, and I guess they took you out. And as they're putting me back onto the table to wheel me back into our room, that's kind of when it all hit me. And this nurse is like, they have your baby, like he's gonna be okay, they're gonna do everything they can for him and all this, trying to be reassuring. But like her doing that just in that moment made me realize the weight of everything and just how serious it was. And it just hit me, and I just started sobbing. And I just cried the rest of the way when they wheeled me back to the room. I think I had my face covered with the covers, and I just like couldn't believe that this was happening, and was so scared for Banks. And it was like, one, I was scared for him, and is he going to be okay? And I was also for myself like, when am I going to get to see him? Like, I'm separated from him. I want to go see my baby, and I haven't even touched him yet. And when we got back to the room, they left us alone, just the two of us. And I was just we were just beside ourselves, obviously, and Jackson went and got my mom, and my mom got there. I'm not even really sure if she knew what had happened yet, but all I know is she comes in the room and I'm still just sobbing, and she goes, "What's wrong?" And I say, "I didn't even get to touch him," and just that was all I could think in the moment. Like if something happens to him and we lose him, I didn't even get to touch him. That was just terrible. And so fortunately Jackson was able to go see him, and so he wasn't alone during this whole time. Jackson got to go see him and be with him, and I wanted that, but I was not able to go see him until my epidural had worn off and I was able to get myself into a wheelchair. And so just waiting, and I kept pleading with the nurse. I was like, I think like I can wiggle my toes now. Like I think I'm good. Can we go see him? And she's like, no, you have to be able to stand and get yourself in the wheelchair. And I was like, gosh.
So I went in there and took my Bible and just read some scripture to him and just talked to him, and they were just running tests and stuff like that. It was hard because another thing they were talking about was like, don't touch them a whole lot. They don't overstimulate them and stuff like that. So that was hard too.
So my epidural is wearing off, and I was thankful because with each moment that it wore off more, like I was a minute closer to getting to go see him. But that's also really hard because this epidural, the thing that kept you from feeling everything, it wears off, and the pain kind of starts creeping in, and so that was hard. But it was finally like 1:40 a.m. I went and looked. 1:40 a.m. when the nurse came in, and she's like, I think you're good to go. And so she got me up into a wheelchair and wheeled me back there. And we got to go see him, and I was so excited, but I just wanted to hold him so bad. I got back there, and fortunately, he was not tubed anymore when I got there. He was breathing on his own, just had some fluid in his lungs, and I couldn't hold him though. I just got to touch him.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to stick this in your shirt?
We didn't even get to hear him cry though. He did end up, before we left, when I got to go see him for the first time, he started kind of crying, but like he had so much fluid in his lungs, so much meconium that like it was just so hoarse, and it just sounded pitiful, and it was just terrible. It just made me feel so bad, and it was helpless, like you talked about feeling helpless. Like I felt helpless in that moment and going and seeing him, because it's like, okay, this is not really a pretty sight. Like this is not the picture of health for a newborn, and he's sitting there and sounding pitiful, and I can't even stand up to like hold him or touch him or reach him or anything. And it was just, it was pretty terrible. So we were at St. Bernard's with him in the NICU for 2 days, and just 2 days of recovery and
Going to
trips.
seeing them and hanging out with
Yeah,
them.
trips back and forth, going up because we got moved downstairs. But trips going upstairs to the NICU and seeing him and spending as much time as we could until we got too exhausted, and going back down to my room and trying to sleep and eat, and then going back as soon as I woke up. And then it was that second day, I just convinced my doctor to let me stay another day because they weren't saying anything about, they didn't know, they still didn't know what was going on. They were testing him for meningitis and all these other things, and just running all these tests all the time. And that was so terrible, just really not even knowing what all he was going through to be tested for all these things, and just all the pain and poking and prodding, and like I couldn't be there for him. And that's not ideal, or what any parent wants, and so that was really hard. But so we still didn't know what was going on, and there was no sign of him getting to go home anytime soon. So I just convinced my doctor to let me stay another day, and we hadn't been up to the NICU yet that morning, and we went up. And I think why I felt a little bit relieved was because I knew, like, okay, there was nothing separating me from him. Like, I'm not going home without him. So I'm going to get to stay here with him. Maybe he'll get better and we can go home tomorrow or something like that, or we'll know more. And so I had that thought going in my head going in that morning. But we went upstairs and scrubbed in and everything. And Jackson started wheeling me over, and we noticed like this whole team of doctors standing around his bay.
We did know that he was having his apneic spells where he would stop breathing. So those were alarming to him.
Because of that, they tubed him again, so he was intubated again.
Yeah.
And they actually had him sedated as well.
So then the doctor came up and she said, "Hey, you know, through last night during our monitors and everything, he had a seizure." So we were like, "What? Like, huh? Why? How? What? What's going on?" So she said,
They weren't equipped for it there.
Right.
Because, I mean, they have a NICU, but they're not specialized, you know, enough, like it's not a full hospital. And so she wanted to send us to Children's in Little Rock or to Le Bonheur in Memphis. And she said, I want to try to get you to Children's, but I'll have to call and make sure they have some beds available. And during the seizure that he had that night too, he quit breathing and his heart rate spiked to like the 200s. And so it wasn't good, but she said, so we need to send you somewhere more equipped to take care of him, because at this point it's gotten beyond us. Children's has a spot. They're going to take great care of you. There are amazing doctors there. So they're going to come and they're going to fly him. Angel One is going to come in a helicopter and take him to Little Rock.
One of the nurses that was there taking care of Banks, she'd been there since he'd been born, I think, but she was taking care of him that day. She was like, "Hey, look, you know, me and my husband had our baby. We were just in Children's, you know, months prior to this, and we're going through the same, situation. And they took great care of us, really reassured us, and that was really cool because there was somebody there that was kind of been there before and was walking through it with us in that sense. And she's still, been a voice with us somewhat. So that's been good. But so that was great. And then we go downstairs because we're like trying to get out of here because he's about to go.
Yeah. We went downstairs and I was met with discharge papers. I don't know how that happened. Some guardian angel went and told them that it was happening and I needed to go. But I mean, literally before we'd even told anybody, like the nurse was in my room with discharge papers and getting me ready to go. And so we signed those and we're calling and letting everybody know this is happening and we got to get out of here.
Hey, I'm going to, his grandpa's going to take me to Little Rock right now so I can go ahead and beat the helicopter and everything and be there when he gets there. And Haley's trying to get everything ready to discharge and everything. So we'd gotten that situated and I got in the truck with Papa and we took off to Little Rock.
I was able to go up. When I got back up, they were the Angel One guys that are incredible were there and running all their tests, and it was just like, wow, it was kind of crazy, but loaded him up, and so I was able to see him off.
So when I was walking up to the hospital at Children's on Little Rock, I looked up on the sign. They've got these like awards that they won and everything, and one of them for U.S. News was world's best specialty hospital world's 2022-23 world's best hospital for specialties and stuff like that. So like we're going to a place exactly where it needs to be. I was just really like kind of when I looked up there and saw that I was like, there's no other place I'd rather be right now than right here with Banks, and a piece was just with me there, and I told Haley that, and I hope it helped her, but it really reassured me.
So we got there and got settled in and everything, and they start kind of telling us the game plan. And so he'd had the seizure, and so they wanted to do an EEG, which is just head basically monitoring of his brain activity and watching for seizures and stuff like that and measuring them and seeing, whatever, if he has any more. So they just kind of gave us a game plan. And so now at that point, seizures was our main concern, and his breathing was obviously affected by the seizures. So that was what we were watching for. I go and this sweet nurse is walking me through pumping. She leaves me in this room and it was the first time that I was really like alone in all this, and so it all just had a moment to sink in. And Jackson said he felt peace, and like that was where we were meant to be. And it's like, yeah, because this is the situation. Yeah, this is where we should be, but why is this situation? Like, I don't want to be here because I don't want it to be the situation. And just like this overwhelming feeling of just, I can't do this. I'm not, I just can't do this. I don't want to do this. And that was kind of hard for me to admit, because I was like always kind of like, oh, God is so faithful and all this, and oh, he doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called and all this. And so, and people are, it's all, he won't ever give you anything more than you can handle. And I was like, I don't want to. Even if you're going to give me the strength, I don't want to. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be part of this testimony and this story. Like, give it to somebody else, because I can't handle this. I don't want this. I want to go home with my baby and hold him and get to do all the new mom things that I wanted and expected to do. And I just sobbed and just like let it all out to him. And I finished pumping and dried up my tears and went out back into the NICU area where Banks was. And I remember looking at him and like his eyes just kind of started like kind of fluttering and doing something weird. And I was like, that doesn't look okay. That doesn't look normal. And we're here for, like, he had a seizure and now we're monitoring for seizures. I don't like what's happening. Like, is this a seizure? Is this what's going on? And I kind of told Jackson, and I was like, I'm scared what's happening with him. And he said, no, it's just been a long day, and we're just been a lot. And so he was trying to reassure me. He's just like, we just need to get some rest. And so, but we found out the next day that actually that was a seizure. He'd had 2 seizures after that. And they got it on the EEG. And when I found that out, it broke my heart. And I was like, I just felt even more helpless, because it's like I was there, I saw it, and I couldn't do anything. That was just the worst thing ever. But after that, after those seizures, he really started getting better. And he was intubated at that time. He ended up coming off of sedation and being untubed, and like gradually went up to like a CPAP, and then just kind of some pressure and a nasal cannula, and then eventually nothing at all. And eventually we got to hold him. It was after like 5 days though.
They had to take the EEG off once they got that off.
Yeah, we couldn't hold him until the EEG was off.
That was on for 2-3 days.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to kind of hang these right here.
Here we go. Oh, it's gonna cut on my shirt.
I'm actually going to clip this to your shirt if that's what
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. You comfortable like that?
Yep. Oh, you got a flash. Wow. Hey, dude, look at me. Hey. Hey. When we got there, we got to stay in the Ronald McDonald house, and that was a blessing. That's a great thing. We got to stay there and we could go in there and see Banks whenever we wanted to. So that was really great. But we were there for like 2.5 days, 3 days. Well, I think it was 2 days we were there really. And then he like really got better so fast, and we got a private room. And so like we got to stay in there with him 24/7, and that was the coolest thing because we just got to hold him that day, and like just to be able to be there with him and be able to, hey, we got to feed him and stuff, and it was really cool. He was doing a lot better, and it was during this whole process we were put a couple things on Facebook and stuff, and just kind of sharing what was going on, and people were praying for us, and from all over the place, everywhere. People texting us, numbers we didn't have, texting us like, God's faithful. He's gonna be, we're praying for you guys, and we don't need anything. People offering for us to stay at their houses, and need to take a shower, come hang out, and get away for a little bit, like just all kinds of stuff. It was great. So much support. But he was doing a lot better, and we were just kind of waiting around for some more test results.
Yeah, so as he progressively got better, it kind of got to the point was like, what's holding us back from going home, because he's doing great. He's not on really any kind of, his IV came out. He was straight or was fully on breast milk and not on IV fluids anymore. No, they weaned him off the phenobarbital because he was seizure free.
That's seizure medicine, by the way.
Yeah. So eventually we were just waiting on an MRI to find out if it was, if his head was okay, going to be okay. And then we were going to get to go home. Yes, and full feeds, and just weight gain, feeding every around the clock on their schedule and all that.
That was hard.
Yeah. We had to kind of keep waiting for our MRI, but finally we get around and can get the MRI done. We get the results back the next day, and I'm thinking like, he hasn't had any more seizures. This should be great. Like he's not going to have, like he's going to be beautiful and perfect, and it's going to come back clear, and we're just praying for clear MRI results. So the neurologist comes in and she lets us know, we did the MRI, and his results, his scans are consistent with what's called HIE, which is hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. Did you Google it? Yeah.
I can't believe you just said that.
Yeah.
Good job.
But so basically that is from when I was in labor and he wasn't handling the contractions well. There was no oxygen getting to his brain. And so when there was a lack of oxygen to his brain, it began to swell and produced some brain damage. And there's 3 levels of severity of this, and it's mild, moderate, and severe. And he had a moderate case, has a moderate case. And so she's like, you can't tell with full certainty what the effects of this will be. It could be, he have developmental delays or issues, could have cerebral palsy, like just speech delays, physical delays of any sort, but there's no way really to tell. So that puts them at a higher risk for needing occupational therapy, physical therapy, which we are going to start going to here soon, and say speech therapy. But all those therapies, and just more focus on him to help him develop and grow each day. And that wasn't, what we wanted. We were really hoping for a clear MRI, and it's just scary to think about what kind of things can affect him. Yeah, and it's hard too as a parent. Is like, am I doing everything that I can to make sure that he's developing the way that he should, the way that any other kid would? But that's just really the scary part, is making sure we're doing everything for him that we can. and just wanting him to be happy and healthy and thriving. That's really all we want. For me, the hardest part is not his diagnosis. It's just what we did go through. It's just the trauma of all and how it happened, how it all happened, and the expectation of, here's your baby, and just that immediate bond and getting to hold him and getting to take him home and like having family come to the hospital and to the house and bring meals and stay and hang out and have fun and meet him and everything.
Say bye forever, NICU. Bye forever. Huh? Yeah. Oh, don't run over people. Say bye, Dad. Dad, say bye.
Bye, NICU.
Yay. Oh, he's already.
Like all in all, we were, I guess, part of the NICU for 12 days at both hospitals, and it was the longest 12 days ever. I don't know. We had a lot of support. There were so many people reaching out to us, and that means the world. You have no idea. Because in the midst of people think about, oh, the world's so bad, but man, it's not. People are great. God was so good. Because now we have a 4-month-old healthy baby boy. He's 18 pounds, 26 and a quarter inches. I mean, he's growing like a weed, but my God, we can't thank y'all enough for praying for our son, praying for us, and just really, me writing that prayer too, him coming out being happy and screaming and everything, I think back to that, it's like, that's so weird, I wrote those exact words, and that's what I thought about, and it didn't happen. But God's going to use the story to help change somebody's life one day. That's what I hope. That's what my prayer is. But I also know that it's going to help somebody down the road, and I pray that's what this video does. I mean, I don't really know what to expect. So, but part of my story though, I was born 3 months early. I was premature. And so, like, I was just wanting to be healthy, and he was healthy, but just had some problems, and he got the help, but God did a miracle, and yeah, I don't know what else to say.
We're just really thankful for everybody that supported us and prayed for us. And we're just thankful to serve a faithful God that works miracles. And that even when he sees you in your darkest and, you're telling him you don't want this, like, he's still faithful. He didn't write me off after that. He's taken care of me and you and Banks every day since then. Every day since the beginning, really. But we love that kid to death. We're just grateful to be his parents, and grateful for the people that.
And we love you guys.
Yeah.
And if you guys, want to ask more questions, or want to, if you're going through something and just want to talk about anything, we're here for you guys, just like you were here for us. Because we shouldn't. Another thing I learned through this process is nobody should ever go through something alone. Mm-hmm. Because there's moments where it was like, oh, people have checked in, but like, who's actually here, right? If you can do anything for somebody, it'll help.
Yeah.
Because just even a phone call for 5 minutes means the world, right? Just or a text or whatever. Just a hey, how are you doing? I'm here for you. That means the world. But Banks is going to be dedicated next week too, so that's great.
Yeah.
And just wanted to be a testament.
Something cool about that is, for me, like, we're having a public dedication, but like, for me, he's been God's from the very beginning, especially like through his story. I really feel like, because there was no way I could not just turn him over to God in those moments. And you know, God showed, like, I took care, like, he showed us, we see he took care of him, and we know that. And we definitely couldn't have done it without everybody else that prayed for us too. But, and I said the hardest part was having gone through what we went through. And it is, but it's crazy too. Like, there's people that have gone through longer and worse than us, actually. And we've seen some of those people in our journey with this. And so, like, their hearts, you know, how hard that was for them, just after knowing how hard it was for us. You know, so you never know what people have struggled with, and it's just so important to be there for other people. Yeah, but I hope just through sharing this, it can be a testimony to God's abilities and love, because he's shown us so much and done so much for us. And I just also hope in sharing this that somebody out there can feel a little less alone, mainly in, like, just specifically for me, what made me feel the most alone was the C-section, your baby being taken away, not even getting to see him for 6 hours after he's born. And then, you know, I saw him after, but we didn't even actually get to hold him until 5 days later. But yeah, so if you know, it's hard. I feel you. I hear you. That's the hardest thing I've ever gone through, so you're not alone in that. I just want to encourage you, you know, you're not alone in that. But yeah,
I think that's a good place to end it. But we just want to say we love you guys. Continue to pray for us, and we'll pray for you guys, whoever needs anything. But that's all for now.
yeah.
Come on, buddy, let's go inside. Yes.
Oh,
Christmas tree still
what?
It's Christmas.
What? Oh my goodness. You are home.